Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place.
G'day team, I hope this finds you well. Our FOA team and community are just back from our June conference series. We had an incredible 2-day top producers last Monday, Tuesday, with over 370 farm business owners attending. Thank you to all of you. It was great to get to know you, and I hope that you found the learnings to come from that event of real value. And then on the Thursday, Friday, we had almost 500 of our Platinum Mastermind and alumni members together for one of our conferences, focusing in on objective measurement on farms. So really getting to know our numbers and being able to use a set of really powerful calculators and farm business decision tools to analyze growth decisions and to support really strong on-farm decision making. So great to have you all here with us for that. And I hope this finds everyone well. So as part of our Platinum Mastermind program, there is a host of world-class entrepreneurial and business training. I genuinely believe that as our Platinum Mastermind and alumni members move through our 3-year program, that they're getting access to some of the best business training that exists on the planet, applied specifically for farming families. And so what I thought I'd do in this session and the next, while I take a small break to head to Fiji with my family, is to share with you 2 monthly webinars, or the recordings of 2 monthly webinars that we run for our Platinum Mastermind members. So this first one is asking the question, are you under-resourced on your farm? I met with 10 of our Platinum Mastermind members just over 12 months ago for our annual planning meeting, or our annual on-farm alignment meeting. And of those 10, I'm going to say that 8 were under-resourced. And that meant that as business owners, they were stuck doing largely low-value on-farm activity, often at the expense of being able to focus intently in on CEO-level activity and expansion and other considerations and analyses. So I've invited Sam Johnson in this webinar to join me. And we hear also from Andrew Driscoll, one of our alumni members, about the decisions that he made to change the resourcing structure and the organisational chart and the team structure on his farm. So enjoy this. I hope you find it valuable, and I hope it challenges you just to think about some of the beliefs that we have, some of the mindsets that we hold, and some of the decisions that we're making around the team that we need to set our farms up for real success. Enjoy this session. Take care and speak soon.
I've had one-on-one with many of you over the last few weeks. The common theme is that we're under-resourced. And that shouldn't be a surprise to me or us, but it has just hit home loud and clear. Out of 8 alignment meetings that I've had, all 8 members of the Platinum Mastermind program were under-resourced from a team perspective. So can I just get you to wave your hand? Are you under-resourced in your business right now? Can I just see a show of hands? Just, yep. Awesome. So I wanted Sam to join me for this conversation, and I want you to chime in. What I find that we're doing is, if we are under-resourced, we're stuck doing the low-value activities in our business. But most of us feel like we can't afford more team, or we have a belief that says that we just can't find them, or that they're not about. And so on the back of the Tune In Deep Dive, I think we need to check in on some of those beliefs today, because I deeply believe that they are about. And I deeply believe that you can almost, I'm going to say most of us, can absolutely justify resourcing up. So I want to just talk about that with Sam for a while. I want to sort of talk about how to make sure we've got our org charts right and roles clearly defined. And then we might get into some tactics around how to recruit. But I'd love to leave this session with you more confident that you can afford to resource up, to have more clarity around how to build out your org chart, more clarity around how to set down really clear roles, and then really clear on your options to go and find the right person. So, Sam, just to launch off, the benchmarks, and you will have probably touched on this at Objectively Measure, what's the benchmark for how much each of us should be spending on team?
Hutch, the ratio we talk about is 15% of your income as labour costs. So that includes your staff wages plus your imputed owner wage costs. So we use 115,000 for the principal employee and 75,000 for family, and that includes all on costs. So 15% of income. So remember, there's two sides to that. It's the wage cost, but there's also the revenue. So if you increase your revenue, you can afford to spend more on wages.
Yep. And so if I've got $1 million average revenue, Sam, typically over the last 3 years, for example, that's suggesting that I can spend $150,000 on my own wage and on team.
Correct.
Now, if I'm already spending that, and this is the point I want everyone to get, if I'm already spending $150,000 on wages in my business doing $1 million revenue, Sam, does that mean that I can't afford more staff?
Not necessarily, because it might be that some of the tasks you're doing as the owner's labour you're contributing to the business are $25 an hour tasks, say. So, the hourly rate at $115 an hour is, I do the maths in my head, Hutch, something like $45 or $50 an hour. So, if you're not operating at that level, you're doing tasks that you could employ someone to do at $25, $30 an hour. Then there's capacity in your business to take on more staff.
And so that's the point that I'm wanting to start with today, is that if my business is on average doing $1 million income and I'm already spending $150,000 on wages, mine and others, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't afford to employ. It just means that there's a way that we need to reorganize so that we can justify that next recruit to drive new revenue in the business. And so to Sam's point, how much of your time are you allocating to $25 to $30 an hour jobs? So how many hours a week? Can I just get you to type into the chat box? On average, just a random typical week or run of 6 weeks. If a full week is a 50-hour week, how much of that time how many hours out of that week are you allocating to low value activity? Adam is saying 95%. Peter, 35 hours out of 50. Danielle, 20. John, 40. Franzi, 95%. Martin, 35, unfortunately. Bain family, 50 hours. Caroline, 20. Tom and Deb, 30. Bonnie, 80%. Ali and Chris, 25 hours. So can you see the common theme here? So Sam, looking at those numbers coming through, can anyone here afford not to resource up?
No, not based on that. And I think the important thing, Hutch, here is to realise that what are the things that aren't getting done? They're the high value tasks in our business. And, we spent a lot of time last week talking about opportunity cost and what is opportunity cost, and spending time doing $30 hour work at the expense of doing $100, $200, $500,000 an hour work is a massive opportunity cost in your business as the key owners and drivers of a business.
Yeah. And so in Farm Owners Academy, we've gone from a team of 6 to a team of 16 over the last 2 years. And I feel like our mindset has been, we need to recruit the next person so that we can grow and handle the growth. So I feel like what we've been trying to do, and Sam and I have spent a lot of time in our org chart working out which resource do we invest in next so that we can have our next growth step? I think it's a mindset thing, I guess, is what I'm saying. And I'd love for you to spend time in your org chart designing how you need your dream team to look 3 years from now. What's the team look like when you've got a freedom farm? And then who do you recruit first, second, third, fourth in the building out of that, so that you can make that next growth step towards your freedom farm? So that's a point I'd love for you all to write down, is that I need to recruit ahead of my growth curve. And so some of you might have had the mindset that I can't afford that next recruit. I just want us to check in on that. Maybe go and run a budget with that person in and work out how much your revenue has to jump in order to justify that investment. The other thing I wanted to mention here is that most of us, when we put that amount into our budget, let's say it's a $50,000 farmhand, we think that that's what we're risking, that it's a $50,000 expense. I think there's a mindset shift here that we can have as well, that it's not an expense firstly. Because if I could come in and resource that for you so that you could buy back 35 hours a week, how much more revenue, how much more opportunity, how much more efficiency could you create? So we've worked on the basis outside of agriculture that if you can justify a third of someone's wage, you should be recruiting them. And I actually think, Sam, and I'm keen for your comment on this, do you think that's the same in agriculture? It sort of seems to work for accountants and builders and electricians because they trade their time for money. And if you can justify a third of their wage in, then go ahead and recruit, because one, they're going to leverage you, two, they're going to bring you value, three, you're going to be able to go and find new revenue to be able to justify that investment. What's your comment, do you think, in ag? Is it similar?
I feel if you're in a growth, if you're looking, if growth or increasing scale is part of your strategy in your business, then yes, it absolutely is. If you're looking to remain the size you are, then perhaps it's a little bit, you need to see a little bit more work than that, Hutch. But absolutely, if you're looking to grow, yes, 30% I feel is correct. And I'll give you an example from an ag example. And Greg shared this last week for our Victoria members that were there. But he was working with one of our Platinum Mastermind clients a couple of years ago, and he asked them this question: if you could do a really good job of your grain marketing, how much more money do you think you could make for your business each year? And the response was $250,000 a year extra that I could make if I did a really good job of my grain marketing. So very high value exercise, right? And the following question was, well, how much time do you need to do a really good job of that? And the response was, I need 3 weeks. If I could invest 3 weeks of my time on our grain marketing, I feel I could do an extra $250,000 for the business. So for just being able to free up 3 weeks, they can more than cover another employee coming in full time to do those lower value tasks, just to give you that headspace for 3 weeks a year to go and focus on something like that.
Thanks, Sam. So if we are to create a freedom farm, or our definition of that, whatever it is, we need people. We need to build out our dream team. And let's say that we needed 3 people in order to get that done. It might be a farm manager and 2 farmhands, for example, or 1 farm manager, a farmhand, and an office manager, for example. That's all it is for most of us. What if you did that all at once? It might seem reckless and it might seem irresponsible, but just think about that for a minute. So just flipping this on its head, if you were to put an ad in the paper today to say, we're recruiting for a farm manager, a farmhand, and an office manager, just think about what cost base that would land into your business. Could you handle that? I'm just keen to see a yes or no in the chat box. If you were to resource to achieve your 3-year org chart today, how many people feel like they could afford that and justify it versus not? Can I just get a yes or no in the chat? So some of us are in an earlier stage of establishment and growth. So Drizza, can I just get you to come off mute for a minute? Would that be all right?
Yep.
Do you mind if I just put you on the spot for a minute, mate?
Yeah, go for it. No worries.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you. How many years have you been farming?
Since 1992, so about 30 years.
Yep. And mate, how do you feel about the foundations that you've set over that time?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. We've done a lot of infrastructure over the years, and Tammy and myself are sort of, we were in a partnership and we split from that, and we've got our farm pretty well set up.
A couple of positive years recently, Drizza?
Yeah, so we had a few years of pretty dry drought years, which was I think we managed to stay or sort of level with our debt and everything. And the last 2 years have been excellent. And so I think we've made some pretty good profits over the last years.
Well done, mate. And how would you describe where you were 3 or 4 weeks ago before our last meeting with regard to being potentially under-resourced? How were you feeling on this topic?
Yeah, probably both Tammy and I were feeling pretty overwhelmed. Our cap, I was wondering how we'd how we'd do it. And since that meeting, we've both been pretty excited, and we're very pleased with the outcome of the meeting, and just the thought of being able to nearly do it in one foul swoop with a farm manager and a bookkeeper, as well as the bloke. We have a team member now who does a lot of the running of the farm, and that'll allow me to step out of that role as well and into the CEO role.
Yeah. So, how do you describe the outcome of that meeting? Just give me a bit more detail there for everyone's benefit. You were under the pump, under-resourced, not able to get as much time working on your business as you can. What decisions have you made following that meeting? Just lay them out for us again.
So from the meeting, we're going to employ a bookkeeper that'll free me up from the office, and we're going to put on a farm manager. So we're working through sending out an ad to recruit someone to take my role out working on the farm, so that I can spend a lot more time in the office doing the higher value jobs.
And mate, 2 weeks on from that meeting, how do you feel for having made that decision?
Oh, probably relieved and excited. Just pretty excited about the future, I guess, and that just the freeing up of time, and I think that's probably the main one. The freeing up of time is to work on the business, and I guess I see a really good future now, or a clearer future, I guess. Yeah.
Well done, mate. Do you feel like you've earned the right to have a farm manager after 30 years of operating?
Well, probably after the meeting and talking to you, I do. We had someone helping, with our employee helping, and I just still felt that I was still doing the $25 an hour jobs. All I was doing two lots of 25 an hour jobs instead of, and after that meeting, it sort of made it a lot clearer that we do need someone else as well to take over my role. I probably didn't give myself enough credit as to how many hours I was putting in to the farm and the business. I guess, I now do realise that, it's worth getting someone else to help out.
How much more revenue do you think you might be able to create in a normal year for being on the other side of that recruitment round? If you're out of the tractor, off the tools, truly in that CEO role, how much more do you think you can achieve in terms of revenue and profit for that leverage?
That's a pretty good question. I think it'd be, well, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't put a figure on, but I know we will make more money from it. That's something I've got to get my head around is our figures too. So
yeah, so hard to put a definitive on that, but I'm willing to guarantee that there will be more revenue and more profit on the other side of making that change. And what's the risk? I want to talk with Sam about this next. I think a lot of us don't recruit because we put a whole lot of risk around, how do I possibly justify that 120 grand wage or that 60 grand wage? And what if it doesn't work? Did you have fear, Andrew, around, paying someone 120 grand and a car and a phone or whatever it's going to be to bring in that farm manager before the conversation?
Yeah, definitely. I also think that even mentioning what our plans are to other people look at you and go, where are you going to get these people? And, it's definitely a mindset thing that we are going to get someone. We're going to get someone good. I think that's the thing with some of the farming community is everyone thinks it's hard to find someone. And, I think if we do the right or the groundwork, I guess, to put a proper ad out I think we'll get someone really good. But yeah, there's definitely that little voice in the back of the head saying, can you do it? And I think we can.
Well done, mate. Thanks. I'm sorry I put you on the spot with this, but I think it's such a great example of someone who went from being in the trenches and struggling, mate, with respect to get time to implement on your cap and have those quarterly meetings and all of those things, to a single decision to back themselves to resource up before perhaps they might. And everything shifted. And I agree. I think with a good recruitment campaign, and we can talk about that next, you will find someone in the same way Tim and Cheryl and so many others have found someone. And the rest, as they say, is history. But mate, thank you for sharing that. And thanks so much for being courageous enough to back yourself to bring in that farm manager and that office manager. For you and Tammy and your family, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, thanks very much, Hutch. We really appreciate everything that Farm Owners Academy does, and we're very excited after that last meeting with you. So thank you.
Pleasure, mate. I could just feel where you're at and the tension and the frustration you're feeling for not being as leveraged as you need to be. And just on this, I deeply believe that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with anyone. We're all perfect where we are. If we're stuck and struggling and burned out and, our time's not where we need it to be and we're bouncing around for a pinball, like a pinball, there is a chess move. There is a structural change that we can make that can help us play life more simply, more effectively, more strategically. We don't have to necessarily, absolutely we need to change, but I think it's really important also to look at our reality and work out what are the one or two chess moves. And as a business coach, what I often focus on with people is if there's nothing wrong with them and there's nothing wrong with anything here, there's just one or two chess moves that we could make to set these people free, what would it be? And I feel like this resourcing up piece could be the chess move that could just be absolutely game changing for so many of you. I just want to help you back yourselves and give you permission, if that's what's needed, to get on and back yourself to resource up, perhaps before you think you can. Sam Johnson, can I bring you in on this? What's your take on what we've just heard from Andrew?
Yeah, it reminds me of what we talked about in February, much just around, how long does it take to make the decision? It's an instantaneous thing, and see what's already happened for Andrew and Tammy just after making that one decision and the way that they already feel about it, even though they haven't got the person in place yet. They've made the decision, they're taking the steps. So, that's already freeing up room for thought and opportunity. And it's just, it just starts with that decision, Hutch.
So many of us arrive into our farms and we find ourselves doing 5 or 10 or 15 things just to meet the needs of the farm that either aren't our passion or aren't our genius. And so, coming back to Andrew's example, employing a bookkeeper or an office manager to get in and do all of that is probably also going to free up both Andrew and Tammy, for Tammy to launch her next project, which, I know she already has real thoughts around. And so it's really healthy to spend time in your org charts and shaping that for 3 years from now on what our team needs to look like so that we can have a freedom farm. And just make sure that every spot in that org chart is putting people in an area of passion, an area of interest, and in their genius. Sam Johnson, how much time do you and I spend looking at reshaping and tweaking and making minor adjustments to the FOA org chart so that we can continually tweak and move people more close to their genius?
I think at least at every quarterly planning meeting, it's something that you should be looking at, the org chart, and is it the right org chart that's going to take us forward? What's changed? Is there an opportunity to get people operating more in their genius? And you can see behind me here the recent remap I've just done of our FOA org chart, which we're just going through and looking at all the roles again now. And there's a lot of roles on there, but they're filled by one person has more than one role. But what that reflects is as not all roles are a full-time person, so it's okay to have someone doing multiple roles in your business, and that's often a good spot to start. If you're in 5 or 6 different seats, is to sack yourself out of the things you don't enjoy doing the most first, and find people who can come in and do those for you.
Thanks, Sam. Any other questions or comments here?
Great one from Adam there, Hutch, we probably should talk through.
Do you mind just reading that out, Sam?
So Adam said, I find it hard to get over the guilt of not doing a $25 hour jobs, although I can see it's probably a waste of my time.
Yep. And how many of us feel like that if our team are out doing $25 an hour jobs, that we should be out there with them? I still struggle with that sometimes. I've got 2 guys out here. We did a paddock burn on Sunday and they're in the tractor just tidying up logs before we sow. Absolutely, there's that mindset that I should be out there with them. But Sam, what would you say to that guilt piece around letting go and being okay having team out on the tools while you're in the office?
Yeah, so I guess when I was in my corporate role, I was taking some pretty quick steps up through the business, and I always found that really difficult. You were operating at one role that had you responsible for a set of things in the business, and you were really focused on that. To take a step into a new position meant you had to let go of a whole heap of things, and there certainly was that guilt, on not doing those other tasks that you were doing in the past, but now it was going to be someone else's role. And I think the framing that helped me the most was a mentor of mine said to me, if you're doing their job, who's doing yours? So it's just brilliant. So if you're doing their job, who's doing yours? And the people that you employ to do the $25 an hour tasks, you've employed them into that role because they're better at them than you, or they're as equivalent at you in them. But it means that you can go and focus on the higher value things. So if you're not able to, if you're constantly getting yourself pulled back into those roles or whatever, who's covering the role that you should be doing in the business?
Great comment, Sam. So just for a bit of context here, Jane and I have been leasing out our farm for the last 13 years. And I've been focusing off farm on all things coaching. we took the farm back on in January, and I thought that we wouldn't be able to afford to recruit anyone for 12 or 18 months or more. And we had 2 guys that I recruited to contract spray Bathurst Burr on our back hill. And I've been so impressed by these guys. My mind turned to how can I employ both of them? And they're a father and son team. And so the father wants a 3-day-a-week job. He doesn't want a 5-day-a-week job. So I propositioned him last week, mate, how would you feel about being farm manager? And he has never thought before about being worthy of that position. So he was delighted and honoured and overwhelmed by that. And I sort of said, well, my business partner and I were sort of keen to support you to grow into that role, but we'd like you to grow into being a farm manager in 18 months, 2 years. So he's on board. And we employed his son as well. Now, as the landowner, Jane and I rent the farm to a partnership, and we're in a 50-50 partnership with a local sheep expert. As the landowner, we're employing his son, Tom, 2 days a week. The operating partnership is going to employ Tom 2 days a week, and we're redeploying him to a neighbour's farm 1 day a week so we can justify giving him a full-time wage, because he desperately wants full-time security so he can save up for a mortgage and look after his family. So I didn't predict that we would be recruiting as quickly as we have. But Adam, I find myself now sitting here and I've got 2 blokes working out in the paddock. A little bit of me feels like that I'd like to be out there with them, and a little bit of me feels like I should be out there with them. But just to see the level of ownership these guys are taking of the fencing, of the spraying program, even of the cleanup after our burn on the weekend, it just blows me away. I go out now because I want to, and that's kind of what I want for you guys, to have it that choosing to go and do the $25, $30 an hour. I'd like for that to be a hobby for you, so that you're the CEO of your business, and for 5 or 10 hours a week, you go, you know what, the guys are on a fence line, I might go and give them a hand for a while just to check in and see how they are. And Drizza, I think that's where you're going to be on the other side of your recruitment, is that you've got the freedom to go and work in the paddocks and on the farm when you want, or in the sheep yards when you want, but that task isn't dependent on you. We've got to build out our org chart so that those routine, recurring operational tasks are not dependent on you. Because I firmly believe that you can't build out a freedom farm if 80 or 90% of your time is in the paddock. You just won't get the structure, you won't get the systems, you won't do the analysis. You're not giving enough time to management and leadership. And as a result, it might take you 6 years to create a freedom farm, or 8 years, when in fact, I think you can get it done in 12 months or 18 months if you back yourself to resource up and leverage through team. So yeah, we've just got to, maybe what we've got to do is find a bigger vision for why we need to do this, so that the guilt that we feel for not being in the paddock just gets a little bit smaller over time. Sam, do you mind coming off mute? Be great to hear from you.
Hi, Hutch. How are you? No, you
very well,
pretty
mate.
Well
how are you?
It. Yeah, going very well. I suppose I was just going to ask Andrew, is he prepared to let go? Does he enjoy those jobs still? And how's he going to do that, I suppose, was my question. That's what I struggle with, not feeling that I have to be out there. It's because I want to be out there.
Andrew, would you mind speaking to that? Are you going to, is that what you'd rather be doing? And are you going to miss doing those tasks?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
No, yeah, as much as I do enjoy doing them, I don't think I'm going to miss it. I think I'm prepared for that next step. Yeah, I just think that the business isn't going to grow with me doing those roles, as much as I enjoy doing them. And I see myself just as Hutch said, sort of, I will go out and do it, but I won't be there 7 days a week doing it. it'll be once I've done my CEO work in the office, I'll go out and help, but I won't be sort of not chained to it, but sort of have to be there for everything to run. I'll come in and they can tell me, okay, this is where we're up to now, join in, and instead of me being the one there all the time. I guess that's my thoughts anyway.
It's a great
that's
comment.
Good to know.
So we've got to do what's best for the business, not what's best for us. There's a
right.
big difference. Big difference. We need to build out a business that can provide for future generations or whatever it is that is your vision. We've got to do what's best for the business, not what's best for us. You think about an accounting firm or a plumbing company or an electrical contracting or a physio business. My wife's a physio, or a vet practice. There are so many examples that if my identity is I'm a physio or a vet or I'm a plumber, and that's what I like to do each day, we're going to be stuck and we're just creating a job for ourselves. But if we are the CEO of a vet practice, we get to do what Greg's done, in the privilege of employing 6 or 8 junior vets and building them up, and practice managers, and building out that, and then successfully selling that business. It's the same in agriculture. We've got to build out the team so that the business that operates our farm can work without us. And then we move to being the CEO of that business, the same as it was for Greg or for a plumbing company or a physio practice. There's 80 plumbers in Wagga, and there's 4 that have teams of 20 or 30. And then there's 76 that are a man in a van. We've got to be really thoughtful about which is the business that we're building. Because at the moment, if we don't make these changes, we're at risk of being the man in the van, because we love being on the tools. And that's sort of, I think, the mindset shift that we need to make. It's a great question, Sam. Thank you. Sam Johnson?
I'd just say there's a difference for what Sam was talking about. There's a difference to having to be the person who does the $25 an hour tasks and wanting to do them and going and doing them. So, you're operating from a different headspace. So instead of the priority being doing the $25 an hour work because you're the only one to do it, the priority is do the $1,000 hour work first, and then I'll go and do the $25 an hour work because I enjoy doing it. Or it's, I've made the choice to go and do that, if that makes sense. You're operating from a very different headspace, would be what I would say. And I would say, if you enjoy doing it, work out how to create your role so that you do get to still do some of that stuff.
No, that's excellent. Thanks, Sam. That's what, No, and I'm definitely, willing. I'm just coming around, but sometimes you do enjoy doing those probably $25 hour jobs. It's your passion. But definitely don't want to be out there the whole time. No.
You're not the one out there because it has to be done, and it's at the expense of you doing other things that you could be doing. I mean, your business is quite large, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things that you've got lined up to put your time into.
Definitely. No, thank you.
And I used to be the man in the van with my coaching business and my PA, and I had my 40 clients, and that was good. And now here I am sort of with Sam heading up Farm Owners Academy. I still get to coach. I still get to do what I love. I just get to do it in a different way and when I want, if that makes sense. So it's a key point, Sam, I think, that by resourcing up, you're not losing the opportunity to do what you love. Most people think that if I build out an org chart and give all that away, that it's gone and I'll be lost or I will lose the right to do it. It's absolutely not the case. I get to do and achieve more and have a more fulfilling coaching career for going on this journey than I used to when I was a coach in Wagga with 40 businesses and my PA. So, and that's been my absolute insight, that by doing this, we get to do more of what we love, not less. It's counterintuitive.
Hutch, we've got a few great questions coming in the chat here, if you're happy to work through a few of those.
Absolutely.
I've got one from Tom and Deb. Any advice on employing our children? We're only new to the FOA journey and realise our need to employ someone and have been manifesting this since the deep dive. And our 7-year-old son has approached us with a desire to work for us. Any hints or advice around this probably came a bit sooner than we were prepared for.
Careful what you wish for. Yes, absolutely. It often arrives. It arrives when we can handle it, not so much when we plan for it. My comment would be to employ family and give it a go, but the same governance applies. I'd still have my cap, have my operating rhythm, have core values, have performance standards, think about the systems, the job descriptions and all those things, and bring them in the same way so that they learn the professional conduct that you would apply to anyone else. And I've seen this a lot, that they shouldn't get necessarily any special favors over and above your other team member just for being family. I would absolutely treat them the same way that I would treat any other employee in the business. My kids are a bit young, so they're still helping out informally. So I can't speak from experience on that one. I can comment that that's exactly how Dad treated us when we got to about age 16. We were employed in the business on a casual basis, hourly rate. And if we turned up unshaven to the workshop at 6:30, we'd be sent home because that just wasn't the standard. And so I think being really clear on the system and the structure that applies for everyone, and then being consistent with your family team members is really important. Sam, what would you say there?
I just want to say congratulations, Tom and Deb. You obviously, displaying that farming's a great career choice and that there's opportunity in your business. And, for them to come back, there's plenty of examples I can think of growing up where people I grew up with, just there was no way they were going back on the farm because they just watched mum and dad struggle and it wasn't fun. So well done on that to start with. And I'd agree with everything you've said, Hutch.
Yeah, just on that comment, Hutch, I think it's great to keep it as a structured when you're employing your family members, because I've seen people around here have come into the farming business on a promise that long time down the track, you'll get the farm, and they've married and had kids of their own. They're on the farm, and mum and dad are still signing the checks. And I just think to have a structure is a really good decision for everyone. And that way, if there's any sort of, when things get down the track and the succession, there's a plan in place, and people have sort of know where they stand, and there's no sort of, well, somebody said this and somebody said that. It's all they're clear in black and white, and it's I think that's a really good thing for a family business, and especially a farm.
Yep. I love outside agriculture. Again, I think there are clues. You think about an accounting firm, there's rungs on the ladder. And I've spoken to this before. And you think about a 6-step ladder that people come on as the analyst, and then they become a junior accountant, then an accountant, then a senior accountant, then a junior partner, then a partner. And at each level, there's boxes that they need to tick in order to qualify for a potential promotion. I would love to see all of us, for employed family members and employees of the company, that we've got that same ladder for everyone. That if you're going to start as a jackaroo, that once you've ticked these boxes, here's what we expect, then you might get invited to be a junior farmhand. And then once you've ticked these boxes, then you might get the opportunity to be a farmhand. If you can map that out, and even and Tim and Cheryl are a great example of this, that for family and or non-family members, that there might be a chance where you get to become an equity holder in this business. And then, from there, it should be the same, I think, for our kids as it is for a potential farm manager to kind of grow and evolve with us over time.
So comment from the Baines. I know in this business, the CEO doesn't like to go in the office because it's too scary, lack of control, lack of organisation, et cetera, et cetera. It's easier to be in the paddock. A comment than a question. I'm sure we'll be working on that over the next few months, Baines.
Do you want to? What would your comment be there, though, Sam? If people are avoiding being the CEO of their business, I know how I would feel if you were avoiding that responsibility in this business. And I know how Greg and the directors of farm owners would feel if I was avoiding or neglecting that. How do we get over that? Because it is easy to go and, with respect, hide in the paddock doing low value activity, because benchmarking, budgeting, analysing, learning how to be the strategist and CEO, it can be overwhelming. But what would your comment be there, Sam?
I think Adam hit the nail on the head at the start when he said, just be careful of the bullshit story that you're telling yourself. So it starts with the mindset, doesn't it? So what is it? I am a good CEO. I'm a successful business owner. I love doing office work. I do the $1,000 an hour work first.
Yeah. And my comment there would be, remember that there's 4 stages of learning. So there's unconscious incompetence. My 3-year-old didn't know they couldn't fly a helicopter. Then conscious incompetence, where they then get to a point where they know they can't fly a helicopter. Then they get to conscious competence, where they're learning to drive and they're having to make conscious efforts around everything. And then unconscious competence, where you can drive a B double and not even have to think about it. You can just get from here to the silos and back and not even have to think. So there is those 4 stages of learning, and you are on this journey to learn how to become a CEO to your business. But we're going to go from not knowing that we didn't need those skills to now knowing that we don't have those skills. That's uncomfortable. You've just got to stay in there. You've got to apply the learning so you get to a point where you're competent, consciously competent, and then unconsciously competent, like Sam Johnson is in his management role. He does this effortlessly. So if you're getting out of the office, getting out off the farm and into the office to get some of this CEO stuff done, it's going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to feel out of your depth for a little while. That's a good thing. Don't go back to the paddock. Stay in there. Keep allocating your 5-10 hours a week minimum to learning these skills and then applying these skills, and make sure that you're calling on us to give you the support you need to get it done. That's what your coaches are here for. So but be uncomfortable being in management, and over time, then it becomes comfortable. Sam? I
was just going to share, when I was at Oricon, and took on the team leadership role for the buildings team here in Adelaide. So I had 65 staff under me. I jumped 2 levels. I got promoted 2 levels to take that role on. So I wasn't even leading like the 2IC for the team at the time. And I ended up managing people who had employed me into the business. So I'd become their line manager. And I felt like the biggest phony ever for about 12 months. So it's going to feel awkward when you start doing this stuff, and you're going to feel out of your depth, and you're not going to feel like you're okay. And the thing that gets you through that is the people that you put around you, the people that hold you to do the things that keep you successful and keep you focused on the things that are important. So I'd say, just who's the network you've got around you that help you to jump in the office and do the CEO work, if that's what your role is, or who is it that you're tapping to keep yourself accountable?
Great comment. I think the best thing that we can do is leave this meeting and go and tell our team that we're not available on Fridays. Everything will still get done, but just let your team know and ask for their support so that you can. And with that, everything can change.
Another question here, mate. Read Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, and I would completely agree with that. Great book on this. So if you haven't read that one, jump into it. iPhone XS, I'm not sure who this is, but good question around, if the CEO is not your jam, if you don't like office work, then shouldn't you do what you love, pleasing you? Can you employ a CEO?
It's a great question. If you think about a surgeon, they don't necessarily spend time systemizing and structuring their business and doing a lot of what we're talking about. They just go and operate, and they back themselves to find a good practice manager to get that stuff done for them. They're still then very much kept informed of the reports and the budgets and the performance of that practice at least monthly. So it can be done in a superstar business where the person that is the superstar stays on the tools. But my comment would be careful abdicating responsibility. Because what you could do is you're off doing $20 an hour work, hoping that you're going to recruit someone to come in and run your business for you. A whole lot can go wrong if you abdicate responsibility. What I would prefer to see you do is to learn this stuff, apply this stuff, be in that role, and then recruit in to replace yourself out of that role. So I think absolutely in time, if you go on this journey, you can go back and go and do what you love. If it's running the stud or if it's sheep work or whatever, you can do that. I would rather we all learn these skills, apply these skills, take full ownership of the structure and the systems and the values and the standards and the operating rhythms and the job descriptions and the performance reviews. They're for me to write. And then once I build out my business, then I can recruit in to set myself free. I'm absolutely wanting to caution against people going, let's recruit a business manager. I don't want to be in the office. I reckon that's avoiding the responsibility of truly scaling a growth company and creating a freedom farm. Don't flick it over for someone else to do. I would encourage you to go on this journey and do it for yourself, and then recruit into those management positions once you've built out the system. Sam?
Hutch, I'd just say if you're going to recruit a general manager or a CEO, you need to play at the next level, which is as the owner or investor in the business, and you need to be very good at operating in that space and making sure that you're clear on the things that drive the business outcomes, and you're setting clear targets and managing the performance of that person in that role. Because as Hutch said, there's a lot at stake if they get it wrong.
Excellent. So in recruiting, we get the people we deserve. And if we do a very lightweight, cheap and nasty recruitment campaign, we're not going to find the people we need. And so I might prepare and share my thoughts with you next month on how we run a really significant recruitment campaign that is very targeted and very significant, that's going to give us the best chance of finding good talent. It's more than one tactic side by side that's going to get that done for us. Excellent. So just to round this out, Sam Johnson, any other comments or final comments from you?
Yep. So number one thing that's on my mind at the moment is what's happening in the employment market generally. So some of you might be finding it challenging to recruit at the moment, but you're not the only ones. The whole market is finding it challenging to recruit at the moment, and unemployment rates are as low as they have been for some time. So my prediction is that we're going to see a push on wages in the next 12 months. And if you're not ahead of that curve and money's not off the table for your team members, existing team members, they might start thinking about what else is next for them. So if you haven't had that conversation or you're not clear, I would be looking at where they're at and whether you've got that covered appropriately and that they're clear on where they're going in your business. So that would be my closing remark, is don't forget to look after the team members you've got. It's not just about the ones you're trying to recruit.
Thanks, Sam. Now, a few people have just reminded me that I was going to speak to org chart. So here's, I guess, an example of how we think a farm org chart should look. And if you take yourself out, I love future dating these. So January 2025, 3 years from now, here's the team that we're going to have that will allow us to have a freedom farm. Now, in all of our businesses, we've got all of these functional areas. And this might feel like overkill for you, because at the moment you might be wearing most of these hats, but we want you to build out an org chart that looks like this anyway, because there is a function for a CEO, and then there's operations, finance, HR and safety, marketing, environment. You can tweak this as marketing. So these are just functional areas. So we encourage you to build this out, and then you might have your name next to a lot of these for now. But what's really important is then to start looking at which of these do I want to let go of first, second, third, fourth. So that over time, as Sam said before, you're removing yourself and sacking yourself out of multiple functional areas as you move across the business. Now, what's really important to do is to make sure you've got the systems around. So while you're in that role, you need to create the systems and structures for that role. So it might be admin and finance. You might need to get the admin and finance functions squared away in your business and systemize the checklists, the videos, the tuition, those things, so that then you can recruit in a bookkeeper to do that, or a part-time financial administrator to do that part for you. But we can absolutely share this as an example. And I might share again the free employment pack that we have available. And this is part of that, with example job descriptions for a lot of the functions in this org chart. But this is what we think an org chart should look like. It's not just you, farm manager, farm hand, bookkeeper. It's far more robust than that. And then over time, you can go, these are the functions in order that we're going to recruit into or outsource, so that you can free yourself from each of the functional areas over time. So just in rounding this out, I predict that most of us are under-resourced, and I'm thinking 90% of us, and that there are parts of your business where you are still stuck doing the $20, $25, $30 an hour roles that we need to let go of, so that we can truly move in to the CEO role just for a few hours a week, so that we can move towards more quickly achieving your definition of a freedom farm. I'm wanting, with Sam, to give you confidence that you can get on and do that, and that it won't cost you, and that you're not risking much. It will be one of the key levers that you can pull to back yourself to do this now, and even with more conviction than you might have been planning. Back yourself to bring in that person, get the leverage, free yourself up so that you can get this done more quickly. It's an investment in freeing up your time, and a massive step towards creating a freedom farm. Just look at how you, instead of asking, can we afford to recruit? Ask, how can we afford to recruit? And then let's find ways to make it happen. But it's just so important that we let go of 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 hours a week of low value activity, backing ourselves that will create more revenue in spades than that expense that you incur to the business.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us, or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.